Vote. You can make a difference. Bad politicians are sent to Washington by good people who don't vote. This was said by William E. Simon, our 63rd Secretary of the Treasury. Does it matter to you if only a few people decide who our city, state, and nation's leader would be? The answer to that question should be a resounding yes. Yes, it does matter. According to Merriam-Webster, democracy is a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people. This means all of the people. Citizens have both rights and responsibilities to their communities. Voting is a very important part of these responsibilities. Tonight, I'm going to persuade you to be responsible and get out there and vote in the next election. Whether it is a local or national election should not matter. Do your civic duty. I have voted in almost every election I have been able to since I turned 18 years old. My father instilled in me the idea that voting is not just an option, it is a responsibility. I will discuss the need for more citizens to vote in all elections, the effects of voting in our communities and around the globe, and how it will benefit you to do so. According to the Social Science Data Analysis Network, the percentage of American citizens who have voted in the presidential elections has continued to decline in the past 50 years. This graph clearly shows the steady downward trend. In 1964, roughly 69% of the voting population turned out for the presidential election. These numbers have steadily fallen, with the lowest point being the 1996 election, with a turnout of only 54%. This is barely over half of all the registered voters. Half. USHistory.org reports this as the lowest percentage of voter turnout since 1824. In the most recent election in 2012, the numbers rose slightly to 58%. This is an 11% decline from 1964 to 2012. With the state of affairs the world is in today, this is an extremely poor example of American regard for civic responsibility. Not only has there been a decline in voters in the presidential elections, an even larger lack can be noted with the midterm and local elections. According to the Pew Research Center, only 2 years after the election of President Barack Obama, whose election had a turnout of 58%, only 36.9% of voters showed up for the midterm election that put the House of Representatives back in the hands of the Republicans. Elections data covering 144 larger U.S. cities showed an average of 26.6% of cities' voting age population cast ballots in local elections in 2001. 10 years later, less than 21% did so. Some people continue to complain about the way things are run, yet if they don't vote, they are waiving their chance to make a difference. USHistory.org states, "A vote sends a direct message to the government about how a citizen wants to be governed. The local elections may not seem so important, but they determine issues that have impact in our everyday lives. These issues range from schools and roads to police and fire departments. Taxes are always a big concern, but even quality of life matters are addressed, such as parks and libraries. Lawmakers are elected who make laws, policies, and appointments that will have lasting effects for years to come. National elections matter on a much larger scale. The choice whether to vote or not can affect not only our country, but people around the world. Many people in other countries cannot vote, and some die every day fighting for this right. The president and the cabinet that he appoints set U.S. foreign policy. Our votes help determine who these people will be who are shaping the policies of the U.S. now and in the future. These policies in turn affect people in countries who do not have a voice in their own government and must develop or depend on the help of other countries like ours. Imagine the satisfaction of knowing that your vote made a difference. Imagine driving down the road and seeing a new school being built. You can feel good knowing that you had a hand in the decision-making behind it due to your vote in your local election. You are now a part of providing education for the children in your town, and therefore you have an impact on the future. Imagine a foreign country turning into a democracy due to aid and support from our government. Imagine how those people would feel gaining a right that we have had for hundreds of years. Your vote in the presidential election would play a part in electing the officials who made the foreign policies that determined that we would help that country. Imagine how great that would make you feel. I have discussed the need for more citizens to vote, how voting affects our country and other countries around the world, and also the personal feelings of fulfillment that can be gained just by casting a vote and making your voice heard. Please go out and vote in your next election. You will be glad you did.